Hello, this is your professor. Today we're going to talk about the AI case of India. So it has a lot of potential and excitement. So we're going to share this case. Before we share, you know that I'm a Christian, so I'd like to deliver some of the Bible verses that would lay some foundations as we approach this very interesting age. Okay, and start with Exodus 23, that you shall have no other gods before me. This, I believe, is in Ten Commandments. And the Ten Commandments, one of the first God's request is not to have other gods. Only God, Yahweh. Isaiah 44:5-6. There is no other God, thus says the Lord, the King of Israel and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, Yahweh Shabbat. I am the first and the last. Besides me, there is no God. This is God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's a very clear message. There's no other God but Him. No other God beyond Yahweh, our God. 2 Samuel 7:22. Therefore you are great, O Lord God, for there is none like you, and there is no God besides you, according to all that we have heard with our ears. Isaiah 46:9. I am God, and there's no other. I am God, and there is none like me. I make known the end from the beginning, and from ancient times what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. Okay, Isaiah 2:8-9. During the time of Solomon, was Israel, Judah, a really strong country, having all the wealth of all the nations. And the only thing that they really began to fail was because of the idolatry. So Isaiah 2:8-9 talking about warning that their land also is full of idols. They worship the work of their own hands, that which their own fingers have made, and the mean man bows down, and the great man humbles himself. Okay, so you should not bow down to the work of your hands. You made them. You are the creator. You're not the creation. Okay, Romans 1:25. Who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshipped and served the creature more than the creator. So here you see the definition of idolatry. You do not worship or serve the creature that you have made with the work of your hands. You should worship the creator. Okay, and God is alone the God. So unless you are clear about this foundation of reality, everything will kind of slip through, and you're doomed to declining future. So make sure that you understand this. This is the monotheistic God from Bible. And that is exactly the directly opposite to the pantheism of different nations. And when you serve pantheism, it's like everything can be God. Everybody can be a God. Everything. There's really no clear demarcation between God and what God is not God. There, your ability to see the reality, and that is compromised, and there you begin to lose your leadership position. Okay, so what I'm going to read, the case is from Harvard case. Is the newest one, most recent one, is talking about sovereign AI. And I used to receive this name without much discernment. Now I kind of begin to we are the creator of AI. We make, AI. AI didn't make us. We make AI. So the creature is AI. We are the creator. So who's sovereign? Is AI sovereign or are we sovereign? So those who make AI as a creator, like the status of God, as opposed to us, He's a creator when we are creation. He's God, we are not. Same as this. We are the creator. AI is not. AI is a creature. So therefore, creator is sovereign. Creation is not sovereign. The same as I'm going to show you some analogies so that you would understand. Like when first Excel has come along, Excel has such a very powerful capability. I mean, Spirit, I know in a lot of business organizations and, whenever there's number involved, and Excels are used. And that's good. We know we are Excel useful tool and we enjoy using it for our productivity and all, but we don't worship it, right? So you wouldn't call sovereign Excel. Okay, let me ask you now, after 10, 20 years, would you say sovereign GPT? Sovereign Grok? No. Even these names are, they're tools. Like the transformation is the algorithm. So we don't call it sovereign. So when you hear the term like sovereign being used as an adjective to describe AI, you could just know that it's not right. So it's been used as how to say, the sales pitch for those chip making companies. They want to expand their market and they say, okay, we have AI created in these big nations and they're good, but we also want the small nations also buy our chips and create their own local intelligence. And how are we going to market these terms? So they've given this sovereign as a sort of, you by building your own AI, you kind of keep your sovereignty, which I'm not sure it is. I have some reservations about using this term in front of adjective to describe AI. Sovereign people, sovereign nation use AI tool, which does AI is not sovereign. Okay, people are sovereign. So let's make that very, very clear so that you not begin to worship this tool of your hands. So with that clear, that let us go into some of the most recent developments in AI ambition of India. Okay, so before we begin to go into the building sovereign AI for India, what does it mean? I think it's better kind of sovereign India makes sense. So it is AI is a tool to leapfrog this nation who has been not enjoying the most successful economic fruits. Help them enjoy and help them get ahead. Go ahead, get ahead, and enjoy this fruits of AI. As a sovereign nation. That's what I understand. It's not that AI is sovereign. Okay, so let's take a look at this just a little bit of this video, what they're attempting to do.
We visited this textile manufacturing factory in Karur. There was a station where they are stitching something, there was a station where they're folding something, there was a station where they're ironing something. And almost in all of the stations, some of the workers were wearing cameras on their foreheads. It was either a GoPro, and some of them were also wearing meta glasses.
We have 200 people and we utilize at least 60 people for this robotics area. They wear it every day, at least for 6 to 8 hours per day. They have the additional benefit of 10,000 rupees per month.
இது போய்கிட்டு இருக்கு 6 மாசமா தினமும் காலையில வந்த உடனே ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ண ஆரம்பிப்போம். மிஷின் ஆன் ஆகி ரெடி ஆன உடனே ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ண ஆரம்பிப்போம். அதுக்கப்புறம் திருப்பியும் டீ பிரேக் அண்ட் லஞ்ச் பிரேக்கில் மட்டும் கிளாஸை ரிமூவ் பண்ணியிருப்போம். மற்றபடி எல்லா நேரத்துலையும் நாங்கள் செய்கிற எல்லா வேலையும் இதில் ரெக்கார்ட் ஆகிட்டு இருக்கோம். அப்படி நினைக்கல, ஏன்னா எல்லா இடத்துலையும் ஹியூமனுக்கான ஒரு ப்ரையாரிட்டி இருந்துக்கிட்டே தானே இருக்கும். ஸோ ரோபோட் இருந்தாலும் இட்ஸ் ஹெல்ப் ஃபார் ஹியூமன், நாட் ஃபார் த ஒர்க்.
It looks very dystopian to start with. Is this what humans will become? Are we training robots now? Are we the fodder for robots, I mean, it doesn't seem like a tech job, but if this camera will tomorrow train how Tesla produces a new robot, that's a tech job. But this is the bottom end of the tech job, where you are not the person who's actually producing any technology, but what you're doing is still training technology.
Objectways started in 2019. We basically started as a data annotation company. Later we evolved.
So I want you to be able to take a look at what this company called Egocentric. So what they are doing is the bottom end of AI industry or big data industry, that they need data annotations and data generation, especially the human movements, because that's going to be used as a basis for humanoid robots, which can be later developed and used for many cases, especially in manufacturing or this household chores, or here they talk about this what was it, the textile company, and she's wearing it for household jobs. Okay. And I'm not going to play the YouTube videos here, but you can go and check yourself. And again, OpenAI, Sam Altman says India will be able to use AI and move into the future. In what ways? Okay, so there's also, at 4 months ago, India's AI summit, where the Sundar Chai was the Google CEO, who's an Indian, and he talks about, in medicine, in not just in manufacture factory, but in many ways that India will be able to use AI to bring the higher quality. So that is excitement. And also there's some concern that as well, and that's because AI is not sovereign, and so whoever country is trying to develop these tools, they must not put AI in a position of a sovereignty or worship, like because it's a country of pantheism, as it has been their culture. So be careful. I say be careful. You have already a very, very great person. I love this picture. This is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma means great soul. And this picture, Mahatma Gandhi was by training lawyer, but he's always wearing this humble clothes that he himself created using this very traditional 직조 fabric making very ancient tools, but he created himself. And the reason he did that is why Gandhi got a spinning wheel, chakra, and that was has meaning because that India was a colony. Although India had great spirit that against the colonization, they've been exploited. So the 인도산 면화를 so cotton, the raw cotton, India had to sell to UK in Britain in a very cheap price, and then in the final product they have to import again, very expensive price. So why not make it in India, right? And then so it's been exploited in double ways, like having to sell the raw material in a very cheap price, but then having to buy the very expensive end user product in a very high price. So the colonization was really ruining the India's sovereignty. So as a resistance, that Gandhi showed the kahadi, 손으로 짠 천, without buying the English suit or the wools or the cottons, but that was this non-violent resistance. So what India? I think I love Gandhi because I love fabrics. I by training also in undergrad I'm a fashion those textile clothing, and so 성경에서 반복되는 사람의 손으로 만든 것을 숭배하는 것과 반대 의미로 손으로 만들고 노동을 숭배하는 게 아니고 이건 저항의 도구다. 그러니까 자유와 자립의 상징이다. So you already have a wonderful people of India. You don't need to worship the first gods like avatars. Or those are Hinduism based symbols and pantheism. No idol worship. Okay, so that kind of 그러니까 이해를 이제 하시겠죠. 그러니까 피지컬 AI를 만들려면 피지컬 AI가 배우기 위해서 그 사람의 손 동작이라든가 아니면 뭐 작업의 순서라든가 우리 인간이 그냥 집에서 하는 사소한 일 아니면은 텍스타일 공장이든 어디 공장에서 노동자들이 직원들이 하는 그 모든 그 동선들을 다 이제 찍어서 그거를 이제 피지컬 AI한테 훈련을 시켜야 되는 과정에 있어서 그 휴먼을 배우게 하기 위해서 그 입력 동작을 지금 무자비하게 진짜 많이 찍고 있다. 이제 그렇게 얘기를 하게 되겠어요. 그래서 인도가 워낙 이제 미국에서도 콜센터 같은 데서 여러 그 미국 소비자가 이제 그 콜센터 전화를 하면 사실 전화를 인도에서 받곤 했거든요. 그죠? 그래서 이런 식으로 이제 미국과 협업이 이루어지는 과정이 있지 않을까. 그러니까 바텀엔드의 잡에서 이제 인디아는 사람이 많기 때문에 그 휴먼으로부터 나온 데이터를 피드를 할 수 있고 그 다음에 그 실제 AI의 브레인 돌아가는 이제 그것은 이제 미국에 있는 그 하이퍼스케일러들이 이제 모델을 만들어내고 그래서 피지컬 AI의 미싱되는 그 부분을 이제 정확하게 제공을 해줄 수 있는 이제 그런 상황으로 이제 인디아의 역할이 여기서 강하게 이제 대두가 되고 있습니다. 근데 이것이 그러면은 인도의 노동자들을 아니면은 그 인플로이먼트를 떨어뜨릴 것이냐 하는 우려에 대해서도 이제 비디오에서 얘기를 하고 있는데 지금 그런 것이 아닐 것 같다 이제 이렇게 얘기를 하고 있죠. 그래서 실제로 이제 피지컬 AI가 완전하게 거의 완전하게 이제 매니팩처링 센터에서 구현이 됐을 때 어떻게 될 것인가에 대해서는 이제 뭐 여러 가지 컨젝처가 있겠지만 마켓에서 일어나는 거의 모든 일은 사실 포캐스팅이 힘듭니다. 그 노벨 경제학상 받은 분도 있잖아요. 마켓에선 일어나는 일을 사실은 우리가 뭐 모르겠습니다. 이제 그래서 이제 hopefully 얘기하지만 항상 다운사이드나 네거티브 사이드나 뭐 악용될 가능성 이것에 대해서도 이제 준비를 해야 되고 그러려면 마음가짐 자체를 sovereign AI가 뭔가 너무 이렇게 경우의 대상으로 막 주권 뭐 이렇게는 조금 심한 것 같다. 그렇게 할 필요는 없을 것 같다. 이제 그게 저의 이제 오늘 주제 중에 하나고 여기서 샘 올트만이 리프로가 하는 거는 인도나 이렇게 조금 경제적으로 조금 많이 그 최고의 어떤 것을 누리지 못했던 나라들도 인공지능을 활용하면 상당히 이제 삶의 수준도 낮아지고 이제 할 수 있는 그런 어떤 리프로깅 좀 이렇게 하는 그런 수단이 될 가능성에 대해서 이제 얘기를 하죠. 그래서 이것을 보세요. 그러니까 우리나라 어떠냐? What about South Korea? What about Taiwan? We are the countries create chips. Chips are the brains and the bodies, or the nerve systems of AI or its physical AI systems. So we do create these chips or the bodies, the material, the tissues, for example, tissues of AI. Now, so should we create AI for our country? 그러니까 이거에 대해서 이제 솔직하게 말씀을 드리면 예를 들어 뭐 엑셀을 마이크로소프트에서 제공하는 엑셀이 충분한데 한국에도 그 주권을 위해서 서버인 엑셀을 만들어야 되냐? 아니면 한국에서도 주권을 위해서 뭐 어떤 AI를 만들어야 되냐? 근데 뭐 만드는 게 좋긴 하지만은 사람들이 쓸까요? 이제 솔직하게 한국 소비자들이 얼마나 그 눈이 높은데 뭐 예를 들어 엔트로픽이 일을 잘 하는데 근데 뭐 한국 회사에서 AI 소브린 AI라는 이름 붙여서 만들었다고 쓰겠습니까? 이제 그러니까 현실적으로 이제 그런 게 있고 뭐 우리가 이제 한글 소프트웨어 같은 경우에 한글을 이제 그쪽에서 안 해야 하기 때문에 뒤떨어졌기 때문에 서브린 이런 게 있을 수 있고 또 인디아 같은 나라는 이제 랭귀지 자체가 너무 많아가지고 그 아주 작은 랭귀지들과 단위들까지 뭐 다 이런 English using AI들이 다루질 않으니까 완전 소외된다. 뭐 이런 경우는 있지만 그래서 아무튼 저는 한국에서는 저는 이제 과일 가게 비유를 하려 합니다. 그러니까 과일을 여러분 과일 회사나 과일 가게 사장은 제일 좋은 과일을 자기가 먹습니까? 아니면 팝니까? 뭐 생선 가게 뭐 이런 분들 보면 그 자녀들이 뭐 팔고 안 팔리는 과일 남은 걸 많이 사 먹었다 이러지 않습니까? 그러니까 약간 이제 이게 우리 한국 사람들이 지혜롭다고 해야 될까? 조금 지독하기도 한 그런 건데 제일 좋은 건 팔면 되죠. 팔면 되고 그 다음에 뭐 AI는 더 좋은 AI 사서 쓰면 되고 뭐 그렇게 생각하죠. 그러니까 very capitalistic thinking. 오케이. 그리고 굉장히 number oriented 돼 있죠. 제가 이제 그 메다나 이런 케이스에서도 like 작은 넘버 같은 되게 집착하는 그런 거를 제가 경주시 아닙니까? 42대손. 그래서 우리 경주시 제가 가장 존경하는 이건희 회장님 도 뭐 초밥 먹으면서도 품질 관리하려면 밥알 몇 개인지 개수를 알아야 된다 이렇게 말씀하셨다는 뭐 야사 같은 게 있는데 저는 그런 거 너무 좋아합니다. 숫자 그렇지 밥알 몇 개인지 그 밥알도 이게 뭐 고시아길이든 그 쌀일 때는 몇 개, 저 쌀일 때는 몇 개 이렇게까지 더 정교하게 되기를 이제 바라는 게 저희 마음입니다. 알겠어요? 그러니까 한국 사람들이 이렇다 이거죠. 그러니까 이제 그러니까 우리가 뭐 sovereign AI를 꼭 가져야 우리 뭐 국가적 자존심이 회복되고 이런 수준은 우리는 아닌 것으로 보이고 오히려 세계 최고의 그 AI 브레인들을 만들어내고 모델 되고 있는 회사들의 최고의 칩들을 공급을 해가지고 그 사람들이 잘 되게 하는 이게 마케팅인데 내가 원하는 거는 우리 고객이 잘 되게 하는 것이죠. 내가 조금 안 좋은 뭐 거를 먹더라도요. 과일 가게 사장님처럼 뭐 그렇게 접근하면 되지 않나. 뭐 소브린 AI가 아래 한글이 없어 우리가 망하겠습니까? 소브린 AI가 없어서 우리나라가 망하겠어요? 그건 아닌 것 같다. 근데 이제 소브린 AI가 특별히 필요한 나라들에서는 그게 펼쳐져서 나라의 어떤 큰 도약을 가져올 수 있을 수 있다. 그리고 인디아는 그 팬시즘 문화가 있어서 이런 아바타나 AI 시스템 만드는 거 되게 열려 있을 수는 있는데 그들의 이제 도와주는 것도 참 좋고 다만 이제 이게 AI를 너무 이제 숭배하거나 이런 상황으로 넘어가는 거는 이제 방지를 해야겠다. Okay? Okay, with that, I spent 24:14 before opening this case. So let me go over the case in a brief manner. So the Sarvam case, you can go ahead and purchase this case from Harvard Business website. This is a most recent case that you will see. They probably published in June. Okay. June 2026. So Sarvam, the question whether it means to build sovereign AI for a country over 1 billion people. So what it means. Okay, so most important quote of the day is the Vivek Raghavan, co-founder of Sarvam. He said that to win in AI is about deploying AI to radically enhance the quality of life for the average Indian citizen. Okay, so that's the mission, that's the purpose. They're not talking about this physical AI model, whatever. But I mean, that's probably most important contribution as well. But when they put out this project as a national project, the Prime Minister Modi also had positively spoken about India's direction 4 months ago. So it's the whatever the motto of this project. Okay. All right. So before what we cover is this. Okay. The case map, origin, founder, sovereignty thesis, the product stack, what Sarvam serves, and competitive policy landscape and strategic question. So if you look at Sarvam in numbers, okay, I wish you had a page number here. Do we have a page number? Oh yeah, right here. Okay. Two foundational LLM unveiled in India, Sarvam and Sarvam 105, 30B and 105B. 22 Indian languages supported. Okay, so it's different from us. We have one language, we have one alphabet, Korean alphabet, but India is a big country where they have many different small cultures and in subcultures. So India has 22 languages. People who speaking 22 languages. It's very hard to run a country where the languages are not the same. So the translations and communication across text speech translation vision models, which is really necessary, I guess, when you have such a big huge country with diversity. And there were 506 proposals reviewed, but Sarvam chosen as a first India AI mission LLM startups. And now they have NVIDIA's H100 GPUs of about 4,096 GPUs and government-supported compute for training, which is not really a lot, but I mean, it's a very good start, I guess. And 140 million plus conversations are processed, tripling in 90 days, and 41 billion raised to date. Okay. So the setup, if you don't control your AI, someone else will. So this is again something that makes me a little bit sad, because what you experience through history is that the cultures can come and exploit you. So they have this fear, a little bit of a victimization, fear that if you do not control what's going on as the most high-tech, cutting-edge technology, that you have no control or understanding of it, and someone else will, and they're going to come again and exploit us. So, and it's entangled with the national history. So February 2026, India had a first AI Impact Summit, and Sarvam unveiled the country's first LLM, trained entirely from scratch on Indian soil. The release capped a 3-year sprint from Stealth Mode's research lab to India's primary institutional bet on sovereign AI, and opened the harder question: could one company credibly own every layer of the stack, modern infrastructure, and application at once? Okay. So the key events you can see from 2023, 2026, and Vivek Raghavan, chief biometric architect. And he said there should not be a situation where if you are in the digital world, you must speak English. Okay, So again, it's a language issue. What they're saying is even if you don't have to speak English, that the AI is. I mean, but that's already true. I mean, you don't have to speak English for GPT or Grok or Gemini or Anthropic already. So that logic alone is not enough. Oh, I don't know. What do you think? So there's another co-founder who has a PhD in computer engineering from Swiss, ETH Zurich, and then worked in IBM to Microsoft and IIT Madras, and since 2023 that he's creating this AI, Sarvam. So they work together through AI for B Bharat, sorry, at IIT Madras, building open data sets language model for Indian languages. Their work exposed structure problem. Most LLMs used in India were trained primarily on English content and built outside the country. So by late 2022, GPT 3.0 sharpened enterprise government interest in LLM. Scaling beyond academic research study requires sustained compute and commercial structure. Okay. So from fine-tuning to building from scratch, in 2023 it was open healthy, fine-tuned on Meta's open source Llama, comparative Hindi-English translation, and building pre-training data, source regional newspaper article, 22 languages, design books, filter web crawls, and then cleaned structured generated synthetic data. And Sarvam 1 is a 2B parameter model trained from scratch, outperforming Llama and attributed to data quality. And the current this year, the frontier scale model built to end-to-end in India, deprecating earlier small models. Okay. And the DeepSeek from China proved that economics had changed. So estimated training cost OpenAI GPT was over 100 million, and the reasoning model of DeepSeek using only 6 million. So that gave a little bit of confidence in China. The China's accomplishment gave confidence in India that we don't need that much money with the small money, but some wise approach that we can achieve something that is as good as what China did. So it showed that this was not something impossible for others to do. Cost of building models from the ground up had reduced over the years. Okay. So they gained confidence by watching. I mean, India and China, they have borders. They share borders. Okay. So what it mattered for Sarvam is discipline, choices in data architecture, cost, not funding, scale, enable the labs outside Silicon Valley to build credible frontier models. Validated Sarvam's bet a startup with modest funding could realistically compete on foundation model, not just applications. Reinforce the case for full-stack ownership. Efficient training makes owning the model layer commercially viable, not just strategically appealing. So, what is sovereign AI means at Sarvam? Okay, it could mean different things, but what they define sovereign model in India is a sovereign model should be trained from scratch using data that must be inspectable by a sovereign authority within the country, by a company under that country's law. It should focus on diversity and inclusion issues unique to that country, and leverage local languages and voice, promoting large-scale usage and continuous improvement. So Sarvam in Sanskrit for all and everything. So reflecting the intent to build AI from India for all. So sovereignty here is not a slogan, it's control over the data. Oh, I see. So they're talking about sovereignty to control over the data. The input data they want to control. And the technology architecture, cost structure through which intelligence reaches Indian users, turning a country's own context into intelligence and continuously improving it over time through local language and feedback loops. Okay, So that's why they thought they needed the sovereign AI in India. I see that, okay. So next is a free AI access and by whose intelligence compound. So here's the tension the Rakhavan is responding to. India is the single largest market for nearly every major AI provider, a billion Meta AI users, 95% Android penetration for Gemini, the second largest GPT user base globally. And these providers are pricing aggressively. So GPT Go at $4.5 a month in India, Perplexity Pro given away free through a telecom partner. So Rakban's line is the crux. We were exporting data and importing intelligence. Every conversation Indian user has a foreign model makes that model smarter. But the improvement accrues to a company outside India whose architecture isn't public. Later on the case mentioned of the 2026 dispute between Anthropic and the US Department of War, where the Anthropic was designated as a national security supply chain risk after declining unrestricted military access. And you can see why an Indian founder with an Dahar background would conclude that foreign AI dependence in national security question, not just a business one. 그래서 이제 이게 sovereign AI에 대한 또 하나 거죠. 어떤 로직인 거죠. So the question is where the intelligence improves and who benefits from that improvement. In effect, we were exporting data and importing intelligence. 그래서 그 모델들의 데이터를 우리가 제공하지만 실제로 인텔리전스는 수입해서 쓰고 돈을 내고 있었다. 그래서 그렇고 최근에 이제 또 한 가지 케이스가 엔트로픽에서 미소스 모델을 이제 제안을 했죠. 페이블 뭐 이런 것들을. 그래서 그것 봐라. 결국은 언젠가는 이제 이런 미국의 회사들이 우리를 막을 것이다. 이제 이렇게 생각하는데 이것도 제가 이제 저희가 솔직하게 드는 생각은 오케이 그럼 엔트로픽이 지금 굉장히 극심한 경쟁을 이제 미국 회사들이 하면서 모델이 하도 빨리 발전되니까 그 이전 모델 더 나은 모델이 나오면은 이전 거는 뭐 버전 낮은 거는 그냥 싸게 줄 수밖에 없거나 뭐 공짜로 줄 수밖에 없는 상황이 되잖아요. 그래서 이런 스몰 컨트리에서 만들어내는 로컬 인텔리전스가 아무리 뭐 거창하게 서브린 이름을 붙였다고 해도 엔트로픽에서 2-3개월 만에 아웃데이트 되어서 나오는 올드 모델보다 그게 더 경쟁력이 있겠느냐. 그래서 거기서도 아마 어려운 경쟁일 것이고 단 한 가지 그거는 이제 그 데이터를 지금 그쪽으로 입력되는 그 인풋을 좀 막고 싶고 이 인디아 랭귀지로 우리가 이제 트레이닝 시켜서 우리 모델을 만들고 싶다 이제 그런 어떤 그 니즈에 대해서 오히려 이제 서구의 뭐 회사들 예를 들면 엔비디아가 이제 가장 마케팅 잘하는 쪽인데 오케이 서버린 AI 능력 필요해 만들어 서버린 AI 필요하지 하면서 우리 칩 사서 만들어 이렇게 해서 결국 이제 마케팅 툴이 되는 거죠 그 나라들이. 그래서 어떤 의미로는 또 그 많은 칩을 수입을 해야 되니까 또다시 익스플로이트 당하는 게 아닌가도 한번 생각해 볼 필요는 있습니다. 그죠? 이게 칼날이 한창 양쪽에서 오니까. So the sovereignty has three dimensions. It says the three dimensions of sovereignty: data, infrastructure, and access. So Sarvam operationalized sovereignty into three concrete dimensions. And I want you to hold on to this framework because we'll use it later to evaluate the company's specific decisions. Data, full visibility and auditability into training data. Infrastructure, building and hosting in India under institutional and national control. Access, keeping prompts and usage patterns within the customer's own environment so that feedback loops stay domestic. So this is a genuinely useful analytical frame, not just for India, but for any country, regulated enterprise thinking about AI dependency. So when you evaluate a vendor's sovereignty claims, ask which of these dimensions they actually satisfy versus which they merely gesture at. Okay. voice first and owning the whole stack. So two more design principles round out Sarvam's philosophy. First, voice over text. So with 22 languages, multiple scripts, and uneven literacy, typing a real barrier for a large share of India's population. 그러네요, 정말. Rakban's framing. For a billion people who speak before they type, voice-first AI is important. Second, full stack ownership. Rakban's critique of the market is that it's fragmented. Teams stitch together different vendors' tools, which is why many enterprise AI efforts stall. Sarvam wants to be the layer beneath everyone else's application. The way UPI became the inevitable rail beneath every Indian payments app. That UPI analogy will come back twice more in this deck, and it's the lead load-bearing companion comparisons for Sarvam's whole go-to-market thesis. So 3 integrated layers. So here's how the sovereignty philosophy becomes actual architecture. So application on top, conversation, agents, orchestration, content transformation, models in the model, and the LLM speech models and vision and language models infrastructure at the base. Prava, their compute platform, edge models for offline devices, and now Sarvam Kaze, their own hardware. So I want you to notice that what's unusual here. Most AI startups pick one of these 3 layers and go deep. But Sarvam is trying to be excellent in all 3 dimensions. 이름 자체가 everything이라는 이름이잖아요, 그렇죠? 이게 약간 잘 모르지만 이제 팬테이즘 신앙에서는 모든 것이 다 신이고, 그죠? 모든 것이 신이 될 수 있고 이렇게 생각하니까 이름 자체도 everything이 하나에 다 지금 돼 있는데 이게 우리가 이제 그 extremely advanced society에서는 사실 한 회사가 모든 걸 하기보다 자기가 제일 잘하는 것들 가지고서 거기서 스몰 니치에서도 최고가 되는 게 더 중요하죠. 예를 들어 버핏 식당에 뭐 다 잘해도 있겠지만 아니면 나는 그 초밥 알수까지도 정확히 해서 완벽하게 만들어낸 초밥집을 하겠어. 이런 경우도 있잖아요. 그래서 어떤 게 더 품질이 좋으냐. 그러니까 그 지금 고객 그 유저 자체가 highly sophisticated 된 유저가 아니라 지금 약간 그 rural area에 있는 조금 뒤떨어졌던 그런 지역에서 들어가는 걸로는 괜찮지만 이게 이제 굉장히 highly sophisticated 된 그 소비자들한테는 이런 어프로치를 했을 때 그 입맛을 만족시킬 수 있을 것인가 이제 그런 염려가 있는 것이죠. 이제 자기 시장이 어딘가 그 고객들이 얼마나 말하자면 높은 입맛을 갖고 있는가에 따라서 이제 볼 필요가 있습니다. 오케이. So the full Sarvam portfolio 2026년 portfolio를 보면 full product catalog as of February 2026, 9 distinct products across the stack. I'm not going to read every card, instead use this as a map. We'll zoom into the 2 flagship LLMs. Next, then the speech layer, then layer vision and agents. So keep this slide in mind as an index you can return to. A quick observation is that notice that how many of these products are B2B and B2G, government infrastructure. So Saras, Mayura, Bobo, Vision, Samvad versus how few are consumer facing. Kaje, announced but not yet shipped is outlier. So the imbalance matters for the strategic questions we'll close on. So 30B, built for speed and scale. 30B is the workhorse model. So it's 30 billion total parameters, but only 2.4 billion active at any time. Thanks to a mixture of experts architecture which keeps inference cheap, it's trained on 16 trillion tokens and tuned specifically for real thing. High throughput use cases, financial services running thousands of calls, insurance agents working across 11 languages. So tokenizer detail is worth pausing on. A fertility score of 2.27 for India languages versus 3.07 for GEMA 3 and 3.91 for GPT series models. Lower fertility means the fewer tokens needed to represent the same Indian language context, which directly lowers the inference cost. So that's a very concrete, defensible technical moat, 해자, rooted in exactly the language data expertise Kumar built in at AI for Bharat. Now 105B is India's first frontier model. So the model, the case trees as a Sarvam's proof point, 105 billion parameters, 10.3 billion actives, 128,000 token context window, and the case explicit about this is built from the ground up with no foreign algorithms or outside engineering support, entirely on government and supporting compute. So the comparative claim is bold, the performance competitive with the DeepSeek R1, a 600 billion parameter model using roughly 1/6 the active parameter, and it scored a perfect result across 2 passes on GEE Main 2026, India's hyper-competitive national engineering entrance exam taken by millions of students. Whatever you think of benchmark gaming in the industry generally, that GE result is symbolically powerful claim for domestic audience. The question is not whether India can train a model. The question is whether it can be run everywhere, every day. Speech and translation layer. The 3 products are here. Saras for speech recognition, Mayura for translation, Bubo for text-to-speech. Saras handles 22 languages at under 150 milliseconds of latency, including code mix speech and multi-speaker diarization. Sorry. And reportedly beats GPT-4o, Gemini 3 Pro on the Indic Voices benchmark. So Mayura is worth a specific call out. It offers 4 translation styles: former, modern, colloquial, classic colloquial, and code mix, and explicitly handles Indian numeral conventions like lakhs and correlus, which reflect back on earlier styles as a gap in global models. So this is Sarvam directly closing the exact gap that motivate the company's founding. Next is vision model. So vision model, 3 billion parameter vision language model built for document intelligence. The government records financial documents and handwritten forms across 22 languages. On the ORM's OCR benchmark, it scored 84.3% ahead of Gemini 3 Pro at 80.2% and GPT 5.2 at 69.8%. Okay, so why does this matter strategically? India runs enormous volumes of paper-based government process, forms, records, application, much of it handwritten and multilingual. A model that can digitize that reliably is genuinely high-value public infrastructure, not just a nice-to-have feature. So it's also a good example of the diversity and inclusion issues unique to that country language from Raghavan's sovereignty definition in earlier slides. Okay, 이렇게 이제 그 공공도 자료들이 다 디지타이즈되고 하면 어떤 의미로는 이제 공무원들에 대한 그 필요를 좀 줄이는 그런 상황도 발생할 수 있겠다, 이제 그런 생각이 들죠. Okay, and somebody is the agent. Okay, so vision and agent. Sambad from answers to actions. So Sambad, the agent orchestration layer, it combines Saras, Sarvam 30B, and Bubo into a real-time pipeline across phone calls, WhatsApp, and web. The surety Arga Words code is the key definition line. Agentic means the AI takes action, updates a database, books an appointment, sends a document. Okay. Let's see. Okay. That just answered the question. So the scale numbers are striking. 140 million conversations processed, tripling in just 90 days in daily voice minutes, doubling from 1 million to 2 million within a year. So this is a product where Sarvam B2B and B2G revenue actually gets generated, and it's some commercial engine that underneath the sovereignty narratives. Okay, so business model comes from this agent. Next is a studio, so dubbing at governmental scale. Sarvam Dub does zero-shot voice cloning, replicating the speaker's voice across languages without any recording, which built-in duration control, so the dub audio doesn't sound stretched or distorted. It's achieving 0.88 voice similar score in production. So 어떤 말로 하면 이제 딥페이크를 만드는데 작업을 해내는 딥페이크 스튜디오인 거죠. So proof point is about as high profile as gets in India public life. The Sarvam studio dubs the Prime Minister's monthly radio address and the annual union budget presentation into 11 regional languages. That's not an enterprise SaaS use case. It's a Sarvam functioning as a literal national communication and infrastructure. So it's hard to find a more concrete embodiment of the sovereign AI's as public utility framing than this. Enterprises, so regulated sectors privately hosted. Now we shift from products to customers starting with enterprise. So parent here is regulated high complicated sectors, financial services, insurance, banking, deployed in privately hosted environments where the customer restrains visibility into model behavior and data flows. So that's the access dimension of the sovereignty from earlier slide, operationalized as a sales pitch. Okay, so SBI Life is the case's flagship example. 350,000 sales agents using Sarvam's assistant for product queries and premium calculations in 11 languages delivered through WhatsApp. Notice the channel voice. WhatsApp, not a bespoke app. So that's a deliberate low friction distribution decision given WhatsApp's near universal reach in India. So the government, from policy search to farmer calls, government deployment span from the Prime Minister's office down to state agriculture departments. NITI Ayog, India's policy think tank, uses Sarvam to carry 363,000 files across 53 ministries, and the tool was used in drafting the 2026 economic survey. The Sarvams embodied directing the machinery of national policymaking. The Ministry of Agriculture example is the one I find most compelling as a development impact story. Voice agents reaching over 400,000 farmers across 4 states for crop data verification, with infrastructure built to handle 10 million interactions a day. And this is to radically enhance the quality of life for average Indian citizen line. Okay, made concrete. For developers, the UPI playbook for AI. The third customer segment are developers. So Sarvam 30 and 105B open sourced under permissive license, and speech translation and vision models are API accessible without a developer needing their own infrastructure. So this is where the UPI analogy from slide 14 gets fully spelled out. Sarvam wants to be the rail that other people's apps run on, indispensable for builders, invisible to end users. So Raghavan's closing line, if you don't do it yourself, you end up being a digital colony. It's deliberately provocating language and signals something important that isn't framed as a purely commercial open source strategy. It's framed as a digital nation building. The case also raises but doesn't resolve whether this model exports beyond India to Southeast Asia, the Middle East, the Africa regions with similar foreign AI. From the cloud to the edge and the face, so 4 device partnership round out the infrastructure dimension of sovereignty. HMD Global, Nokia's parent, puts offline conversational agent on feature phones that run in merely megabyte of storage, reaching users without reliable internet. So Qualcomm brings offline coding assistance to Snapdragon chips. Bosch demonstrated in car conversation AI live at the summit. So, and there is a Kaze, Sarvam's own AI smart glasses. Okay, glasses. Worn by Prime Minister Modi at the summit demo, and this is the one item on the slide that is an infrastructure for someone else's product. So Sarvam's first consumer hardware set. Its piece of strategy will come up again, and we'll get to the overextension question at the end. So state-level infrastructure agreements. Those 2 state deals show Sarvam moving into physical infrastructure ownership. So Tamil Nadu's digital Sangam, a 20 megawatt data center and compute campus developed with IIT Madras, branded as India's first sovereign AI research park. So Odisha's 50 megawatt sovereign AI capacity hub, targeting mining safety industrial operations, and Odia language skills projected to create 5,000 jobs. So Raghavan's quote captures the stake. Choices made now about AI infrastructure will shape whether intelligence compounds within the country or accrues elsewhere. So these are multi-decades capital commitments for a company that has raised about 41 million. The gap between commitment scale and balance sheet scale is worth sitting with. Okay, so choices made now about AI infrastructure will shape whether intelligence compounds within the country or accrues elsewhere. The only Indian company, NVIDIA's Frontier Coalition. So in March 2026, NVIDIA launched the Nemotron, a coalition of frontier AI labs including Mistral, Perplexity, Black Forest Labs, LangChain, Cursor, Reflection AI Thinking Machines Lab. Sarvam is the only Indian company in that group. So the slide is really an incredible market rather than a product or revenue story. Signals that Sarvam's frontier model ambitions are being taken seriously by one of the most important infrastructure providers in the country, in the industry, which matters both for future compute access and for enterprise sales conversations where there is a serious lab. Is this a serious lab? As an implicit qualified question. Application layer and model layer competitors. So let's turn to competition. At the application layer, well-funded players like Yellow AI, Core AI, Observe AI have raised 100 to 200 million each building agent platform. So more capital than Sarvam's entire Series A. At the model layer, Baragen, Genai, and Socket AI are building smaller, more specialized Indian language models. Several also funded through the Indian AI mission. So the context that matters here, India's Gen AI ecosystem grew from 66 companies in 2023 to over 500 by late 2025, with cumulative funding near 290 million. Spread thin, concentrate mostly at the application layer, not at the model layer. So Argowar's code captures Sarvam's positions precisely, not competing with closed-source frontier system at raw scale, but building models large enough for general purpose uses at a fraction of the deployment cost. full stack ambitions and conglomerate bets. So two other approaches to full stack ambition are worth naming. CrewTrim, backed by Ola, is pursuing its own foundation models, cloud platforms, and even AI silicon, with far more capital committed than Sarvam. And several of India's largest IT services companies, CCS, Infosys, have delivered a chosen partnership over independent model development, aligning with OpenAI's Anthropic, respectively, rather than building their own. So their contrast is instructive. The biggest, best capitalized Indian technology companies looked at the build or your own frontier model decision, choose not to. The Sarvam is a fraction of their resources chose to. Whether the visionary or reckless exact attention we are building toward to. So global frontier labs are also localizing. So Sarvam doesn't just compete with Indian challengers. Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Microsoft are actively localizing for the Indian market. And Gemini in 9 Indian languages, OpenAI in the QA benchmark, and Anthropic expanding cloud into 10 Indian languages, opening a Bangalore office, Microsoft Device-Focused Research Center. And the analysis quote at the bottom is a theoretically important point for this whole unit of tokenization and training data decisions are made before training even begins. And everything built around above carries that original bias forward. A model built primarily on English data has a structured ceiling in Indian languages that no amount of post hoc fine-tuning fully closes. So that's the technical argument underneath Sarvam's entire sovereignty thesis. And it connects directly back to the fertility score detailed in earlier slides. Okay, in India AI mission, 7 pillars and 1.2 billion. So zooming out to policy, the Indian mission is the 5-year, 1.2 billion government program launched in March 2024, structured around 7 pillars. Compute scarce capacity innovation center, stuff for financing, application development, and data sets platform, scaling, and safety. So Raghavan draws a direct analogy to Aadhaar and UPI. UPI won because the rails were built, but the ecosystem was coordinated and adoption became default. AI is the next DPI, digital public infrastructure. So this is the policy environment that made Sarvam entire existence possible. Government subsidized compute in exchange for equity, distributed to startups, chosen through open competition rather than directed to India's large conglomerates. So India's mission budget allocation. The largest single allocation by far is compute capacity. 550 million of the 1.25 billion of total blueprints. That's the government directly subsidizing the GPU access that makes frontier model training possible for startups like Sarvam that couldn't otherwise afford it. So, but read the footnote carefully. Actual disbursements has lagged the plan. For year 2000 financially, year 25-26 spent only about 96 million against the 240 million allocation, and 26-27 annual allocation was halved to about 140 million, even though the total 5-year commitment is officially unchanged. So it's a meaningful execution risk sitting underneath Sarvam's growth plan. The mission's own budget discipline is inconsistent, and the public money Sarvam is depending on. The first cohort is India's institutional bet. The 4 startups were chosen in the India AI mission. First cohort from 5 or 6 total proposals. Sarvam for a multilingual, multimodal cornerstone models. Socket AI Lab for 120 billion parameter open source model. Kunai AI for 14 billion parameter voice model. And GAN AI for a 70 billion parameter text-to-speech model. Notice that the Sarvam's mandate envisioned as India's cornerstone model is explicitly broader and more central than the other 3. Which has narrower technical mandate. So the IT minister's quote sets the bar. whichever sector they focus on, they must become among the top 5 in the world. Okay, so that's the government-owned definition of success. It's an aggressive one for public-private AI development. So sovereign AI is a worldwide pattern. It's worth stepping back and recognize India is not unique. There are other countries, Japan, France, South Korea, UAE, Saudi Arabia, UK, are running comparable sovereign AI program, government-funded compute domestic foundation models, some national dedicated AI funds. So take a look. Funding and revenue. So let's consolidate the financial picture. 41 million raised, Series A led by Lightspeed with Peak XV and Khosla Ventures participating. Separately, 4,096 NVIDIA 800 GPUs granted through the Indian AI mission. Compute in kind, not cash, but genuinely variable and difficult to replicate independently. On the revenue side, usage-based API access, enterprise deployments in regulated sectors, government contracts, and state MOUs, and device of OEM partnership. There's a reasonably diversified revenue base for a company this young. And every one of those 4 streams depend on a different set of relations and sales cycles. So, which is itself a coordination challenge as companies scales across all of them simultaneously. Now, the full stack ambition, is it over advantage or over extension? So this the question is really asking. Case is asking. The 4 tensions are laid out here. Simultaneous commitments, frontier models, state infrastructure, enterprise sales, customer hardware, all moving at once. Each with different timelines and different stakeholders, mission versus margin. So how do you stay commercially viable when carrying a nation or mandate in open source philosophy? So India first, global versus global. So does sovereign AI template travel to Southeast Asia, Middle East, or Africa, or does it only work because of India's specific scale and government backing? And structural constraints. AI chips are designed and fabricated entirely outside of India, which is why the Brookings Institute called absolute control over AI structure infeasible. No amount of sovereignty rhetoric changes who manufactures the silicon. So I want you to notice that these 4 tensions aren't independent, they're compounds. So every dollar, every unit of management attention spent on Kaja classes is a dollar and an hour not spent in hardening the 105 model frontier competitiveness or negotiating or the next state infrastructure MOU. That's a real cost of first stack ambition. It's not visible in any single slide or deck. Okay, it only shows up when you look at the whole portfolio at once and the way you just did. Okay, so it's the last class. Last classes are given these questions, 5 questions. I want you to thinking, read them over. Could Sarvam realistically own every layer, modern infrastructure application simultaneously? What's the upside for doing so? Number 2 question, is Sarvam's first stack strategy a strategically sensible position? Or is it overextension for a company with 41 million raised? Number 3, should Sarvam sequence its commitments, frontier models, state infrastructure, enterprise sales, and consumer hardware? What would it take for Sarvam to become the gold standard for sovereignty Indian AI, and is that a defensible moat? Should Sarvam remain India focused or pursue the global sovereign AI template Ragahan describes? All right. So that's the end of a case. Thank you very much for your attention.